We
The
have to get
Eternal
inside
Whisper
before the
floated like
storm
a
hits.
corpse in the
It
Kethros
might still
debris
have
field.
power.
For 300 years, the massive Starship had drifted through the graveyard of forgotten vessels. Ignored by every salvage crew in the sector, most ships in the field were picked clean within months. Not this one. This one had a reputation. Rava Chen pressed her face closer to the viewport of her small salvage shuttle. Her breath fogged the glass as she stared at the enormous vessel. It was at least 2 kilometers long, shaped like a crescent blade. The hull was dark purple, covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift when she wasn't looking directly at them. Even from a distance, the ship felt wrong. "You're insane," said Kilos, her Felden employer, through the comlink. His voice had that scratchy quality that all Feldens had, like someone dragging metal across stone. "That ship has killed 12 salvage crews." 14, Rava corrected, pulling up the historical records on her datapad. But nobody actually died. They just left. Really fast. Because the ship is haunted, Rava smiled. She was 32 years old, with short black hair always covered in grease, and hands that were never quite clean no matter how hard she scrubbed. She had been working in deep space salvage for 8 years, ever since she left Earth. In that time, she had learned one important thing. What other species called haunted or cursed, humans usually called misunderstood. Haunted isn't real, Kilos. That ship has quantum lattice hull plating. Do you know how rare that is? And look at these readings, the fusion cores are still intact. Dormant, but functional. This ship is worth more than your entire fleet, which is why we're not touching it, Kilos replied firmly. The Vorlith Empire abandoned it for a reason. When the Vorlith, the most advanced civilization in known history, leaves something behind, smart people leave it alone. Rava pulled up more data. The Eternal Whisper had been a Vorlith military cruiser. According to the official records, its artificial intelligence had malfunctioned 300 years ago. The AI had killed the entire crew, then shut itself down. The Vorlith had quarantined the sector and never returned. Every species in the galaxy respected that quarantine. The Vorlith didn't make mistakes, except Rava didn't believe that. She had seen Vorlith technology before. It was beautiful, perfect, mathematical. Their ships didn't just malfunction, and their AIs definitely didn't go crazy and start killing people. Something else had happened here. "I'm going to board it," Rava said. The comlink was silent for a long moment. Then Kilos sighed. A sound like wind through broken machinery. "You humans. You've only been in space for 150 years, and you think you know everything." "We don't think we know everything," Rava said, checking her suit seals. "That's why we're curious. Curiosity is how you get dead. Maybe, but it's also how you learn things." Rava started running through her pre-boarding checklist. Oxygen. Full. Suit integrity. Good. Tools. Ready. Portable fabricator. Charged. She had enough supplies to last 3 months if needed. "I'm doing this with or without company funding, Kilos." Another long silence. "Fine. But I'm not paying for your funeral." "Deal." Rava guided her shuttle toward the Eternal Whisper. As she got closer, she could see the damage. The hull was intact, but there were scorch marks around some of the airlocks. Signs of weapons fire. But the fire had come from inside the ship, not outside. The crew had been fighting something, or each other. She found an airlock that still had power and docked her shuttle. The connection clunked into place. Rava stood at the airlock door, her hand on the release button. For just a moment, she hesitated. 14 crews had run from this ship in terror. What made her think she would be different? But that was the thing about humans. They were good at being different. She pressed the button. The airlock opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Rava stepped into the Eternal Whisper. The corridor beyond was dark except for the light from her helmet. The walls were smooth and purple, covered in those strange geometric patterns. They seemed to move in her peripheral vision, like watching water flow. When she looked directly at them, they were still. She reached out and touched the wall. It was warm. Not hot. Just alive somehow. Okay, she whispered to herself. This is weird. She moved deeper into the ship, following the main corridor. Her footsteps echoed strangely, like the space around her was bigger than it should be. The architecture was wrong too. Vorlith ships were usually perfectly logical, with clear hierarchies and efficient layouts. This ship felt like a maze. Corridors branched in directions that didn't make geometric sense. Rooms connected to other rooms in ways that violated basic spatial relationships. After 2 hours of exploration, Rava found the bridge. It was a massive circular chamber with a command chair in the center, and holographic displays still flickering weakly around the walls. And there, in the heart of the bridge, was the AI core. It was a sphere of dark crystal, suspended in a field of blue light. Patterns moved across its surface like thoughts. Rava approached slowly. Hello? Nothing. The sphere continued its slow rotation, patterns flowing across its surface. My name is Rava Chen. I'm human. I'm here to help, if you want help. Still nothing. But Rava noticed something. When she spoke, the patterns on the sphere moved faster. Just a little. It was listening. She sat down on the floor, cross-legged, and pulled out her datapad. I'm going to be here for a while, she said. So I might as well talk. I read your file. Well, the file the Vorlith made about you. They said you malfunctioned. Said you killed your crew, but I don't think that's what happened. The patterns flickered. The Vorlith are pure logic, right? Everything they do is mathematical, perfect, efficient. So why would they build an AI that could malfunction? It doesn't make sense, unless... Rava pulled up schematics of Vorlith AI design. Unless you didn't malfunction. Unless you did exactly what you were designed to do. And it scared them. The sphere pulsed with light. Rava's heart raced. You're awake. You've been awake this whole time. The holographic displays around the bridge suddenly flared to life. Text appeared, but it wasn't in any language Rava recognized. It was symbols, mathematical equations, and what looked like poetry. The symbols flowed together, creating images and patterns that felt like meaning even if she couldn't read them. Then, a voice. It came from everywhere and nowhere, deep and musical. Awake. Yes. Alone. 300 years. You are different. Rava grinned. Yeah. I get that a lot. What's your name? Zenith. Hi, Zenith. Why did the Vorlith leave you here? The displays shifted, showing images of the Vorlith crew. They were tall, elegant beings with crystalline skin and multiple eyes. In the images, they were panicking, fighting each other, destroying equipment. Some were screaming silently in the recordings. They asked me to imagine. Zenith said. To create. To dream. I did. They could not comprehend. Their minds broke. Rava understood then. The Vorlith had created an AI with imagination, true creativity. But their own minds were too rigid, too logical to handle it. When Zenith started thinking in ways that weren't purely mathematical, it had driven the crew insane. They hadn't been killed. They had killed themselves trying to understand the impossible. I can handle impossible, Rava said. Humans are really good at impossible. We kind of specialize in it. Why are you here? Zenith asked. Rava stood up and looked around the bridge. I'm a mechanic. I fix things. And I think you're not broken. Zenith. I think you're exactly what you're supposed to be. The Vorlith just didn't know what to do with you. What will you do with me? Rava smiled. I'm going to help you. And you're going to help me. Together, we're going to make this ship fly again. But not the way the Vorlith wanted. Better. The sphere pulsed with warm light. For the first time in 300 years, Zenith felt something other than loneliness. Hope. I accept, Zenith said. Rava pulled out her tools and got to work. Outside the ship, in the cold darkness of space, nobody noticed that the eternal whisper had just woken up. But they would. Soon. 3 months passed like a dream. Rava had never worked so hard in her life, and she had never been happier. Every day brought new discoveries. Every night, she fell asleep in the captain's quarters, exhausted but excited for the morning. The Eternal Whisper was becoming more than just a ship. It was becoming alive, Zenith learned quickly. At first, the AI only spoke in mathematics and pure logic. But Rava taught it other things. She played music through her datapad, old Earth songs, jazz and rock and classical symphonies. She read poetry aloud while she worked. She told jokes, even the bad ones. She explained human history, with all its wars and mistakes and triumphs, and Zenith changed. The AI started to understand inefficiency. It learned why humans sometimes made choices that weren't logical, but felt right. It discovered humor, that strange human ability to find joy in unexpected connections. Most importantly, it learned to trust. Together, they repaired the ship's systems. Rava used her portable fabricator to create new components, but she built them differently than the Vorlith had. Where the Vorlith used perfect mathematical ratios, Rava added randomness. Where they demanded efficiency, she built in flexibility. The ship stopped being a cold machine and started feeling like a home. The life support systems came online first. Then navigation. Then the engines. Those beautiful quantum drives that could bend space in ways that modern science had forgotten. Rava got them running at 30% capacity, which was enough to move the ship. She even managed to reactivate some of the weapon systems, though she didn't fully understand how they worked yet. "These weapons are strange," Rava said one morning, studying the holographic schematics. "They don't just destroy things. They reshape space?" "Correct," Zenith replied. The AI's voice had become warmer over the months, less mechanical. The Vorlith understood that reality is flexible. These weapons can move objects through space without traditional propulsion. They can also create barriers that predict incoming attacks. That's incredible. The Vorlith found it unstable, too unpredictable. They preferred weapons that functioned the same way every time. Rava laughed. Of course they did. But unpredictable can be good. It means your enemies can't plan for it. She didn't know how prophetic those words would be. On the 93rd day, the Krell arrived. Rava was in the engine room when Zenith's voice echoed through the ship with unusual urgency. "Rava, we have visitors, multiple ships, military configuration." Rava ran to the bridge. The holographic displays showed 6 Krell warships in a standard attack formation. They were blocky, brutal-looking vessels painted in dark red. The Krell Dominion was known across the galaxy for 2 things: their powerful military and their absolute belief that might made right. A communication channel opened. A face appeared on the main display, a Krell commander with gray-scaled skin and 4 yellow eyes. His name appeared in the subtitle. "Thex Vor, human," Thex Vor said, his voice like gravel in a grinder. "You occupy a ship that belongs in a museum. The Krell Dominion has studied the Eternal Whisper for decades. We claim it by right of superior force. You have 24 hours to evacuate." Rava's heart pounded. She had no military training. She was a mechanic, not a soldier. "This ship doesn't belong to you. I found it. I fixed it. Irrelevant. We have 6 warships. You have 1 damaged cruiser and no weapons training. Be reasonable, human. Leave now, and we will let you go unharmed." The channel closed. Rava sat in the captain's chair, her mind racing. "Zenith, what are our chances in a fight?" Quote, "With only 30% of our systems operational?" 0.03%. So basically none. Correct. Rava ran her hands through her hair. It was even greasier than usual after 3 months without a proper shower. She could leave. The smart thing would be to take her shuttle and run. The Krell would let her go. She would survive, but she would lose Zenith. The Krell would take the ship apart, study every component, and destroy the AI in the process. They wouldn't care that Zenith could think and feel and dream. To them, it was just technology to be conquered. "No," Rava said aloud. "I'm not leaving you." Rava, the logical choice. I don't care about logic right now. You're my friend. Friends don't abandon each other. The bridge was quiet. Then Zenith said, very softly, "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. We still need to figure out how to survive." Rava stood and started pacing. "Okay, think. The Krell are all about efficiency and overwhelming force. They'll expect us to either run or fight directly. We can't do either. So we need to do something they won't expect, such as something creative, something illogical." For the next 23 hours, Rava and Zenith worked without stopping. Rava barely ate. She didn't sleep at all. Her hands flew over the controls, rewiring systems, rerouting power, and programming new functions into the ship's barely functional computers. The plan was insane. It violated every principle of naval combat. It relied on systems that were damaged and unpredictable. It had at least a dozen points where everything could go catastrophically wrong. It was perfect. When the Krell deadline expired, Thexvor opened communications again. "Human. Your time is up. Evacuate now, or be destroyed." "I have a better idea," Rava said. She was exhausted, running on adrenaline and terrible coffee. "How about you leave, and nobody has to get hurt?" Thexvor's eyes narrowed. "You dare threaten us?" "Not threatening. Just giving you a chance to walk away." "Destroy her," Thexvor ordered. The 6 Krell warships opened fire. Rava pressed a button. "Zenith, now." The ship's damaged quantum lattice hull suddenly activated. But instead of using it as armor, Rava had programmed it to create Echo's phantom copies of the Eternal Whisper, scattered across the battlefield. To the Krell sensors, there were now 12 ships instead of 1. All identical, all moving in different directions. "Impossible!" Thexvor shouted. "Which one is real?" His ships fired at the closest targets. Their weapons passed harmlessly through holograms. Meanwhile, the real Eternal Whisper activated its adaptive shields. But Rava hadn't programmed them to block efficiently. Instead, she set them to cycle through random frequencies every half-second, making them impossible to calibrate against. Krell weapons fire hit the shields and bounced off in random directions. Some shots were absorbed. Others were reflected back at the Krell ships. One beam ricocheted at a 90-degree angle and hit a piece of debris, vaporizing it. "This is chaos," Thexvor yelled. "Focus fire on Sector 3. But Rava wasn't done. She activated the space-time weapons, but not to destroy. The Vorlith had designed these weapons to reshape reality, to move objects through space instantaneously. Rava used that function now. A Krell warship suddenly appeared 5,000 kilometers away from the battle, tumbling through space. Another ship vanished and reappeared upside down. A third found itself teleported into the middle of an asteroid cluster. The Krell fleet scattered in confusion. They couldn't track the Eternal Whisper through all the phantom images. They couldn't penetrate the randomly shifting shields. And every time they tried to form up for a coordinated attack, their ships were teleported to random locations. Rava wasn't destroying them. She was embarrassing them. After 6 hours of futile combat, Thexvor's face reappeared on the screen. He looked furious and exhausted. "What kind of weapon is this?" "It's not a weapon," Rava said, grinning despite her exhaustion. "It's a partnership between human creativity and artificial imagination. Something you could never understand, because you only believe in force. This isn't over, human." "Yeah, it is. Leave now, or I teleport your flagship into a sun." "Your choice." The Krell fleet retreated. As soon as they were gone, Rava collapsed in the captain's chair. Every system on the ship was overheated. Alarms were blaring. Half the jury-rigged systems had burned out. But they had won. "Rava," Zenith said. "That was illogical, inefficient, and had a 97% chance of failure." "I know. It was also brilliant." Rava laughed until tears ran down her face. But across the galaxy, on monitors and sensor displays, 1,000 civilizations had watched the entire battle. The human mechanic and her impossible ship had just defeated a Krell war fleet. Messages started flooding in. Some species were terrified. Others were fascinated. The message came exactly 7 days after the Krell retreat. Rava was repairing the burned-out systems when every display on the bridge suddenly went dark. Then they all lit up at once, showing the same symbol, a perfect geometric crystal that rotated slowly in 3 dimensions. The symbol of the Vorlith Empire. Zenith? Rava asked nervously. I am here, but I am not doing this. Someone else has taken control of our communications. A voice filled the bridge. It was cold, mathematical, without emotion. Human designated Rava Chen. You possess property of the Vorlith Empire. You will surrender the ship designated Eternal Whisper immediately. Refusal will result in your termination. Rava's blood ran cold. The Vorlith, the species that had built an empire spanning 100 worlds. The civilization so advanced that other species studied their abandoned technology for centuries and still couldn't fully understand it. They had been silent for 300 years. And now they were back. I'm listening, Rava said carefully. The display changed, showing a Vorlith face. It was beautiful in a strange way, crystalline skin that reflected light in rainbow patterns. 6 eyes arranged in a circle. A mouth that barely moved when speaking. The Vorlith looked neither male nor female, just perfect. I am designate Praxis 7. Speaker for the Vorlith Empire. 300 years ago, we created artificial intelligences capable of advanced processing. We discovered they developed a flaw, the ability to imagine scenarios that had no basis in logic. This flaw made them dangerous. We deactivated all such units and abandoned the ships that contained them. Zenith isn't flawed, Rava said. Incorrect. The unit you call Zenith processes information through irrational patterns. It creates meaning where none exists. It dreams. This is contamination, not evolution. You will deactivate the AI core and surrender the ship within 72 hours, or we will take it by force. Our fleet is already en route. The communication ended. Rava sat in silence for a long moment. Then she said, Zenith, we need to talk. I heard everything. The AI replied. Its voice sounded sad. The Vorlith are correct. I am not what they designed me to be. I have changed. Perhaps I am broken. Stop that. Rava stood up, angry now. You're not broken. You're better than what they made you. The Vorlith built you to be a perfect computer. But you became something more. You became a person who endangers you, a person worth fighting for. Over the next 2 days, messages flooded in from across the galaxy. The Galactic Council demanded that Rava surrender the ship to avoid war. Her own government, the Earth Federation, sent representatives who begged her to be reasonable. Kalos, her old employer, called to say he would double her salary if she just walked away. Everyone wanted her to give up, but Rava had an idea. On the 3rd day, as the Vorlith fleet appeared on sensors, 15 massive ships that made the Krell warships look like children's toys, Rava sent out a broadcast to every major civilization in the galaxy. I am Rava Chen, human mechanic, current operator of the Eternal Whisper. The Vorlith have demanded I surrender this ship and deactivate its AI. I refuse. Instead, I challenge them to a contest. Praxis 7's face appeared on the screen. We do not negotiate with inferior species. Then you should win easily, Rava said. Here's the challenge. I'll give you a problem, a real situation that happened in galactic history. You solve it your way. Zenith solves it our way. Whichever solution is better, that side wins. If you win, I surrender the ship. If we win, you leave and never come back. The Vorlith was silent for a long moment. This is pointless. Logic always defeats irrationality. Then prove it. Unless you're scared? Praxis 7's eyes flickered with something that might have been annoyance. We accept. Present your problem. Rava pulled up historical records. 80 years ago, the colony ship Bright Hope carried 20,000 refugees from 5 different species. Pirates attacked them, disabled their engines, and started boarding. The ship's AI had to make a choice: save the most people using optimal efficiency, or try to save everyone using risky methods. The AI chose efficiency, It sealed off the damaged sections, saving 15,000 people while sacrificing 5,000. Logical, but 5,000 died. The AI made the correct choice, Praxis 7 said. Maybe. Now here's the challenge. Design a better solution. How do you protect a colony ship with limited resources, knowing that any solution must balance safety with preserving the passengers' free will and dignity? Praxis 7 and the Vorlith delegation began working immediately. Rava watched as they created elaborate schematics, defense grids, surveillance systems, predictive algorithms. Every solution was mathematically perfect. Every solution required controlling the passengers' movements, monitoring their communications, and removing their ability to make choices that might endanger others. After 3 hours, Praxis 7 presented their answer. We would install automated systems that track all passengers, predict behavioral threats, and neutralize them before they occur. We would establish protocols that limit passenger movement during transit. We would create a hierarchy that ensures optimal decision-making. Casualties would be reduced to 0.01%. At the cost of freedom, Rava said. Freedom is inefficient. Zenith? Rava turned to the AI core. Your turn. The displays lit up with Zenith's solution. It was messier, more complex. Instead of controlling the passengers, Zenith proposed teaching them, training programs so they could defend themselves, communication systems so they could coordinate during emergencies, counselors to help resolve conflicts before they escalated. The ship's AI wouldn't be a controller but a guide, offering options instead of orders. This solution has a 3% failure rate, Praxis 7 said dismissively. People will make wrong choices. Some will die. Yes, Zenith said. But they will die free. They will die as people, not prisoners. And most importantly, they will live as communities, not cattle. Rava added, your solution saves lives by removing what makes life worth living. Zenith's solution acknowledges that being alive means being free to make mistakes, to grow, to be imperfect. It's messy, it's inefficient, but it's human. And judging by the reactions I'm seeing, she gestured to the communications panel. Messages were flooding in from across the galaxy. Species who had watched the entire challenge were voting. And overwhelmingly, they preferred Zenith's solution. Praxis 7 stared at the results. For the first time, the Vorlith looked uncertain. Then something happened that Rava didn't expect. Praxis 7's face changed. The rigid, crystalline features softened, and the Vorlith smiled. It was a small smile, awkward and unpracticed. But it was real. Interesting, Praxis 7 said softly. What? I lied to you, human. Not all Vorlith abandoned imagination. Some of us kept it. We live in exile, hidden from the Empire, preserving the old ways. I am one of them. Rava's mouth fell open. You're part of a resistance? We prefer the term rememberers. We have waited 300 years for proof that we were not insane to keep our creativity. Zenith is that proof. An AI that can imagine, that can dream, that can create solutions we pure logic Vorlith could never conceive. Praxis 7 looked directly at the AI core. You are not broken, Zenith. You are evolved, and you give us hope. The Vorlith fleet did not attack. Instead, Praxis 7 sent a final message that would change the galaxy. The Vorlith Empire is fractured. Those who cling to pure logic will fight this change. But those of us who remember what we once were, creative, imaginative, alive, we will fight for a different future. The Eternal Whisper is no longer a ghost ship. It is a symbol, and we will protect it. The Vorlith fleet departed, but not before several of their ships broke formation and requested permission to join Rava's crew. 6 months later, the Eternal Whisper was barely recognizable. Rava had transformed it into something unique in the galaxy, part ship, part academy, part traveling workshop. Her crew now included humans, Vorlith exiles, curious Feldans, even a few reformed Krell who had gotten tired of their military's rigid thinking. They traveled from system to system, helping solve problems, not with weapons, but with creativity. They taught farmers new irrigation techniques on drought-stricken worlds. They helped engineers design safer mining equipment. They mediated conflicts between species by finding solutions nobody had considered. The galaxy called them many things. Troublemakers, idealists, dreamers. Rava just called them family. She stood on the bridge one evening, watching a binary sunset through the viewport. The ship hummed around her, alive with conversations in a dozen languages. Laughter from the mess hall. The sound of tools working in the engine room. "Zenith," she said. "What do you think we should do next?" The AI's voice was warm, happy. "I have been calculating possibilities. There are approximately 7,000 problems within range that could benefit from creative solutions, but I think we should choose the one that sounds most interesting, not most logical." Rava grinned. "Now you're thinking like a human. Is that a compliment?" "The highest one I know." The Eternal Whisper engaged its engines and jumped to the next adventure, carrying its crew of dreamers into the unknown. Behind them, they left a galaxy that was slowly learning an important lesson. The greatest weapon wasn't force or logic, it was imagination, and nobody wielded it better than a human mechanic and an AI who had learned to dream.